Welcome back. This is part 1.2 of our series on how to find your life purpose using the model Ikigai. If you haven't watched part 1.1, just click on the link to get your introduction. So let's get started with discovering some of the elements in Ikigai. So the first quadrant in Ikigai is around what it is that you love doing. And I'm saying what you love doing because I kind of treat it a little bit differently to what it is that you love. So to give you a small example, when you're thinking about the things that you love doing, these things tend to be activities. And if you have activities, these tend to bring you more concrete answers. So if you love cooking or, I don't know, speaking in public or writing books or whatever it is, it's sort of like the hobbies, the activities that you love to perform. A second thing that really can be in your mind when you're filling in this particular question is, are you a consumer or a builder? What do I mean by that? So people oftentimes are feeling guilty around only being a consumer, right? So for instance, we would say consumers are people like, I love watching movies, I love wiping through, I don't know, magazines and picking the best car. I love playing video games, which feel more like a consuming activity, whilst builders would say more things like, I love building sandcastles, or I love, strategizing new ideas and implementing new projects. I love running training events. I love, literally also founding new companies, writing a book, where the hypothesis is that as a result of you performing this activity, you have something tangible, when you're building something. And the little encouragement I want to give to you, don't feel guilty about being a consumer. I recently had this one coachee who was like, well, but my problem is that I just love to look at fashion and I don't even know, that's nothing productive. And actually I tend to disagree, because one of the solutions we found for her was, well, maybe you should not be a designer or someone who, is involved in the process of creating something, but you should literally just be a scout, because you love the activity of looking at stuff and spotting the things that are really, really cool. So don't be scared to be a consumer, and think about both sides. What are the things that you just love to do and where you're just taking in things, and what are the things where you love to produce something. Another super important area of this is, what are the things that you're good at? And we tend to spot these things, sure, by reflection, but oftentimes also through feedback. So a good question to ask is what are the things that people ask me for advice? Where would I be considered an expert? What is it that I am admired for? And frankly, it doesn't mean that you have to be particularly talented in this. This encompasses talents and acquired skills. So that's something to bear in mind, because oftentimes people would fill us in on the mere perspective of talent. But if you're someone who's learned a lot of languages, hell yeah, that's something that you're good at. So don't miss out on the acquired skills. Another really cool angle to tackle this from are something that we'd call transferable skills versus hard skills in a certain area. What do I mean? So for instance, after, having been in consulting for almost a decade, I have become pretty good at using Excel in compared to most people. I also really know how to work my PowerPoints. These are hard skills, right? But then there are a lot of soft skills or transferable skills that are useful, not just in this one particular area of consulting, but in a lot of other areas as well, like negotiations, running teams. I also realize, now that I'm working with people from a lot of different sectors, that I really learned to look at a problem that I feel is completely unsolvable and literally Google my way through and just try to understand it step by step. So make sure that when you think about the things, what your talents are, you include both the sort of hard skills but also the transferable skills that might be relevant in a lot of different contexts. The third aspect is what the world needs. And oftentimes people get confused with this because they ask, so is it like really what the world needs? Like, I think the world needs better management of climate change, but I can't really do much about this. So this is an answer we tend to get very often. And to be fully frank, I personally, my own story is that I've worked for the United Nations, for the European Commissions, with countless NGOs. And to be fully honest, I myself am confused around all the different complexities that are out there. There simply is no single answer. So I like to tackle these questions in several ways. The first way is to think around, what does the world need from your individual experience? If I am someone who has, for instance, managed to lose a lot of weight, or someone who has worked so hard to pull off their own company, these are these amazing achievements that you've had for yourself, where probably, the importance that this particular aspect plays in your life is massive, right? And the encouragement I want to give to you is, don't be scared to make that thing that came from your own experience a really central guiding star of your own life. So there's nothing bad about, you looking back on your own experience and saying, hey, I don't maybe have to save the whole world, but what are the 2 or 3 little bubbles where I can make an actual contribution, where I have the skills to really make a change. Another way that I love to think about this is, what are your values? What's important to you? If you can write down your top 3 values, just like, whatever comes to you, try to find the story behind that. How come that these things are so important? Because there wouldn't be, let's say, oftentimes they wouldn't be so important if they were already there in such abundance. So it's really cool to think about, what are your values and what in your world is worth fighting for. Last but not least, what I can be paid for. This is a box that for a lot of people has become so domineering. So when we coach people on their Ikigai, all the areas that are in touch with that little box or circle, you'd probably have to say, are just so, full of, anxiety, but also, pressure and all these things. First of all, I think you have to differentiate between what you can be paid for and how much you need for a living. Just for now, forget about number 2. Because you can always tweak the amount of getting paid for something once you've really understood what the value is you're actually bringing. So forget about what you need, just think about the things that, are valuable enough for others that they would give you money. They would give you their money to have you perform it for them. And this can be literally anything from, making a nice flower bouquet to calculating something in Excel and giving them a good business plan. So this was the end of the first part of this series of Ikigai. We hope you had some insights. We hope you enjoyed the process. And as a last little homework that I would love to give to you is, think about the center of this flowery Venn diagram and just, drop down a couple of key words if you like. I always say that, your Ikigai shouldn't have more than 15 words, and best case, just put it into a mantra. Something that your brain can remember. And the most important thing, don't become too much of a perfectionist, relax and understand that, your Ikigai will come to you eventually if you just let it happen. So we hope that you're going to have a lot of fun doing this, and as always, maybe you're curious around how to actually implement this stuff. We all know, life is like 3% inspiration, 97% perspiration. If you're curious around really making your Ikigai happen, really, you know, putting this into practice, the one cool thing we can tell you is that it's actually possible. Baby steps and, you know, in a really safe and cool way, but it is possible. And if that's something that you're intrigued with, do dare to give us a call, sign up for a coffee chat for your 45 to 60 minute free coaching, where we can find out if the ARC is really the program for you, whether or not we can support you, and yeah, how you could get going. So I'm so excited to hear from you, and yeah, see you soon, online or offline, whatever it is that you're hanging out in. Bye bye.